Hello, hello, hello. In today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to be talking about Google Ads for medical practices, medical doctors, GP, and healthcare providers. You sometimes have a private practice where you need clients and customers to find your website so you can maybe a dentist, maybe you can get appointment, a therapist, and all this type of medical services. For you to be able to get those customers, you need Google Ads. But the problem is, you are not a professional marketer, you're a medical practitioner. So you have to learn and understand how this works. In some instances, you don't have to do it yourself, but you can hire a consultant or an agency to manage your Google Ads. Even when you do this, you need to understand Google Ads to be able to manage and direct them properly. So, one thing I want you to know about Google Ads is it can be overwhelming. It can be very, very daunting with a lot of things to know. It's more marketing, so you'll have problems with that. And if you're not careful, you're going to have a very, very high cost per acquisition. I've seen situations where potential client called me to a conversation and they tell me, "Oh, Femi, we're actually losing money from Google Ads." And it's not because Google Ads is not working, but it's because they don't understand the fundamental. And in some instances, the agency or the consultant they're working with does not have the right business acumen, does not even understand the business as well as the website and other important moving elements that would help Google Ads to work effectively. I like to highlight that Google Ads does not work in isolation. It works closely with other marketing channels and marketing function. So let's start by first highlighting what exactly is Google Ads. Google Ads is a situation where you pay Google for Google to show your services to people that are looking for your services. Those people will type in a keyword and then Google will then match that keyword with what they're looking for. And if your medical service or the medical product or whatever you're doing aligns with those people's searches, Google will show them. But here is the catch: you have to pay for that click. That's why it's used to be called pay per click advertising. Now it's now called Google Ads. Before it used to be called Google AdWords. But one thing I want you to understand as well is Google AdWords or Google Ads is not isolated to Google Ads alone. You have other ad channels that you can get people. There's Facebook advertising, there's TikTok ads, there's Instagram ads. There are other different type of ad platforms where you just have to pay to play. But you need to understand that different ads work differently. Social media, for example, people are not really having that high intention to buy. So with Facebook ads and other ads, you can create awareness, like a subconscious awareness for your product and services. And the way Google Ad works is like an auction where different people, different, say for example, different dentists in a region will bid for maybe dentists near me or different keywords. And Google would look at different landing pages and different ads and would decide that, okay, for some criteria, such as how relevant your ad is, how good your landing page is, Google would then present that and how much you're willing to pay as well. Google would then present your website and your ads to people to click on. So, as a medical practitioner or a medical service provider, a GP, a doctor, why is Google Ads important? Google Ads is important because it offers you control. You have control over the number of times people show up to your website. You can control how long and how many time of the day your ad shows. You can control the location of your Google Ads as well. And you can easily scale. You can increase your budget to get more traffic. You can reduce your budget to get less traffic. It's very, very scalable. This is why Google Ads is important. Another reason why Google Ads is important is because it does not just give you access to the customer. It gives you access to people that are really ready to buy. You can actually filter out the time wasters. But if you do not optimize your Google Ads properly by working with people that understand your business and understand the platform, there's a high chance that you'll be getting traffic, a lot of traffic that are not ready to convert, people that are not actually looking for your medical service that you're offering. So this is why it's really important. And in some instances, you have to look at your ad campaign. So when you're talking about Google Ads campaign, you need to look at it like there's campaign at the top, there's ad group, and then there's ad. Before you look at Google Ads, you first need to understand what exactly are you trying to achieve? What is objective of your website, your campaign? Google gives you different campaign objectives. The first objective is sales related. What this means is your medical establishment a type that you need people to pay before they then come to see you? It's similar to an e-commerce website because, say for example, a therapy website where people book therapy sessions. When they land on that website, the goal of the website is for them to actually pay first, and then they can then book the appointment to see a therapist. That's an example of a medical service website. So for that, the objective is sales related. But in another instance, you have situations where you want to get people to fill up a form. You don't really necessarily want to get money off them online. You want them to come into your establishment. So for websites where you're just interested to get traffic, say you want people to read information, health information, where that is the first stage where you want to create an awareness about the health services that you offer, you can set up a campaign where you then promote them to get website traffic. Another goal and objective that is open to you through Google Ads is a situation where you can create ads to get people to download an app. If you're a medical service provider where you use apps and you want people to download apps from Apple Store or Google Play, then you can use Google Ads to get app installation as well. And as I mentioned as well, if you have like a local hospital or a local medical center where you're just regionally based, you can also create Google Ads campaign for you to then get people to your local location. But one thing I want you to understand is these are the default objectives that Google has. Google gives you the default of sales objective, leads objective, website traffic objectives, app promotion objectives, brand awareness and consideration objectives, local and visitor promotion objectives. So that's like six objectives. You also have the option to not choose this template. You can, and this is what I recommend, you can decide that, okay, you actually want to create your own objectives and create your own campaign. So when you're in Google Ads, you just need to go to create campaign without guidance. When you click on that, it then gives you the different types of campaigns. So I'm going to walk you through the different types of campaigns that you have available in Google Ads. The first one is called Performance Max. That is an automated type of campaign. Although Google is always improving, recently they introduced something called AI Max, something different. Performance Max is just you giving Google power to spread your ad across different location across Google. I mean, video platforms, shopping platform, everything. I would recommend staying away from Performance Max if you're starting your Google as a medical practitioner. As a medical and healthcare provider, stay away from Performance Max at the start. That's not where you start from. Then you have something called search ads. Search ads are basically when people type into Google, those blue text that they see across the top of Google before they then see the organic listing. That is what search campaigns is about. And then you have demand generation, where Google then sends your traffic or your ads to YouTube, Gmail, and other video ads as well. That's demand gen. So when you look at these different types of search campaigns, as a medical healthcare provider, you don't have to pay attention to all these options you have. If you're selling actual medical products that is approved by Google, that you have the certification to sell them online, then you want to focus on shopping ads. Shopping ads is that product listing that shows on top of Google so people are able to see that, okay, these are the shopping ads. But if you are a website, say for example, where you want to just show people text information and let them read and to be able to then click on it and come to your website, then you need to focus on search ads. Another type of ad that you can also create is something called video ads. So in this instances, you're able to create videos, short videos where people would then be targeted on YouTube. And the good thing about video ads is it will only target people that are interested in your topic. There are different approaches to that. So obviously, you're going to need to set up your conversion. This is where it's very, very tricky when it comes to conversion, because conversion, if you're selling something online, is different to conversion if you're creating leads. What I mean by this is if you're just looking for people to come to your store or your medical establishment, your conversion can be phone call, your conversion can be booking an appointment, and your conversion can be lead generation form completion. So you need some clarity about what your conversion is about before you then start optimizing your Google ads. And now let's talk about the keyword research, because this is where you can get success or you can get failure in Google ads. Google ads is targeting primarily people that are ready to buy. So your keyword research does not need to be broad. You do not have to target keywords for people that are just researching about health problems and health information, because those people are not ready to buy. Your keyword should be targeting people that are ready to actually buy, people that has that high intention, and that's what Google ads is really about. So you have two options. You can use tools, different third party tools, to do your keyword research. These tools will not offer you as much information as Google Keyword Planner. So within Google Ads, there's this thing called Google Keyword Planner where you can create your own keyword list. So when you click on the Google Keyword Planner, it gives you two options. If you already know the name of the services that you're offering, say for example, ADHD test or ADHD assessment, those are like the seed keywords that you can use those keywords and put within Google Keyword Planner, and it will give you a list of keywords that you can then target. Another way is for you to just take your website or your competitor's website's URL and put it into Keyword Planner, and it will give you a list of keywords. You need to then carefully filter those keywords. You need to understand, okay, what are the keywords that this person is just researching? They're not ready to actually pay for a therapy session, or these people are not actually ready to pay for an ADHD assessment. Those keywords, you're looking for keywords that are very, very close to people that are ready to buy. Then another thing you need to understand about the keyword is each keyword will have a range. How much is the minimum you need to pay for Google to show those keywords, and how much is the maximum you need to pay for Google to show those keywords? And then you also need to understand that keyword also has match types. There's something called broad match keyword. Those keywords are very vague and very wide. Say medical problems, for example. That's a very, very wide keyword. And then some keywords are very, very tailored, where it's like ADHD assessment or ADHD test. Those keywords are very, very targeted because that person is actually interested in getting that test. Or root canal removement, or I don't know a lot about dentistry, but something that when you type in to search, that person actually wants a dentist like immediately. So those are the kind of keywords that you need to target for you to get the best results. Then after that, what you also need to understand as a medical practitioner when you're trying to use Google Ads to get results, to get traffic to your website, you need to understand something called quality score. The quality score is generally the relevance of your ads to your landing page. So basically, what I'm trying to say is you also need to look at metrics such as your expected click through rate, the landing page experience that people get when they land on your website. All these factors and the relevance of your ad contributes to how much you pay. So what I'm trying to say is if an ad costs say $3 and you're ready to pay $3, if you have a very, very good landing page experience, you can get discounts from Google. What I'm trying to say is Google, if Google sees that you offer the best when it comes to quality of the results they can offer people searching for that term, Google will give you a discount. That means it will lower your cost per click, and you will even appear higher up in the ranking. So I've talked about Google keyword research. I mentioned you have broad match. You also have another keyword called exact match. and then you have something called phrase match. Exact match is where you're telling Google that you want your ads to show for exactly this keyword and or this group of keywords. You can have like a number of keywords in phrases and put like a bracket, and that will give you that exact match. So when people search for those exact match, that's when Google will show it to you. But one thing you need to understand is with all these keywords, it doesn't really guarantee that you're going to get as much click as you should get. So what Google Ads then offer you is something called ad extensions. So these ad extensions will give you the opportunity to encourage people to click more on your Google ads. So what am I saying here? With ad extensions, you have different types of ad extension, call extensions, you have different features where you have more way to entice people to click on your ad. Another thing you need to understand as a medical service provider or healthcare provider is your bid strategy. So there are two types of bidding strategy, and bid strategy is basically the control that you have over how much you pay Google for each of the clicks and each of the interaction in your Google ads. So you have the automated bidding. The automated bidding gives you option to bid by conversion, conversion value, clicks, and impression. Conversion value is more aligned to e-commerce or where you take payments on your website. So that's where you look at conversion value. With the clicks, when you're just starting your Google ads, it's recommended that you focus more on clicks, and then you have impression share. Impression share means basically you show your ad shows up more for people when they search those keywords. Not necessarily You're not necessarily focusing on getting clicks. So another thing you also need to understand when you're creating your Google ads is you have something called manual bidding, where you have manual control over your Google ads. You need to actually get at least 30 conversions before you can then start getting data. So what this means is while you're setting up Google ads, you need to understand that Google will try to learn about your website, about people coming to your website, about the keywords they use. And that learning stage is what will help Google understand that, okay, this is what this website is about. These are the type of keywords that people are converting. These are the type of interactions people are having. These are the numbers of time people need to go to the website before they actually convert. So that machine learning, that AI learning takes 30 conversion per month at the minimum for it to learn about your website and to learn about what actually works for you. And when we're talking about things you need to avoid, as a healthcare professional, a medical practice, a doctor, or a GP, you just need to make sure that there's some certain settings within Google Ads that you need to be very careful about. You need to make sure that you have search networks turned off and display networks. So basically, what this means is you're reducing the waste of your Google Ads if you have those defaults setting turned off. And another thing you also want to focus on is if you have a local store, a local medical practice where your customers are basically people that live around you, it's not something where people can actually buy through the internet, then you want to focus on location targeting. Within the location targeting setting, you want it to target people that actually live in that location. You don't want it to target people that live in another location and they're searching about that location that they don't live in, like someone living in New York, for example, searching for something like dentists in California. You don't want your ads showing up for those kind of people because when they click on it, it's going to waste your Google ad budget, if that makes sense to you. So that's one thing you also need to make sure that you're very, very careful about. Also, the language setting, you just leave it at the default. English language is the default language. And then the audience targeting, basically what this means is Google Ads offer you the opportunity to target your ads based on the audiences. But the problem with that is it's not really 100%. So I would just be careful if you don't have existing data with email and other people or audio audiences from your website. You want to be careful with audience targeting settings within Google. So you have different options. Say, for example, if it's a physical location and you're not open on the weekend, you can set up your Google Ads in a way that it doesn't necessarily show up during the weekend. But in some instances, you have some flexibility to show up some ads that are high value where people actually will come during the week. Again, this is you understanding your business and understanding what time do you actually think people search for your service. Are you an organization, a medical service that is open on the weekends? Then you don't need to think about ad scheduling. But if you're not open by the weekend or you're not open late in the night, whatever your service is in terms of when you can offer your services to your customer, you need to factor that into how you schedule your ads to show up. There is no right or wrong answer to this. It's on a case by case basis. So you need to think about it from your perspective. Then another thing I want you to understand is when it comes to Google Ads, you have two sides to it. In fact, you have three. First, you have the Google Ads interface, you have your website, you also have your sales team. If you have sales team that take calls and talk to customers after they've converted on the website. And then you have the assets that you use, the videos, the images, the text that you use in Google Ads. So all these moving parts are like a relay race. The journey starts with the Google Ads and the assets, the optimization, the bidding, the landing page, and then the conversion, and then the post conversion after people have bought. So, for you to get the best out of your Google Ads, you actually need to start thinking about something called landing page optimization, your landing page experience. Because if people have a very bad experience on your landing page, it will also affect the quality of your traffic. In terms of budget, the question always comes up, how much should you be paying for Google Ads? You should be paying enough to show that you're making profit or breaking even. What I mean by breaking even is a situation where it's a recurring service. Say, for example, a therapy session. Most times people will need multiple sessions in some instances for therapy. So what you want to do is you need to clarify what exactly are you willing to spend to get that first conversion. Because obviously after the person then comes to the session, it then depends on the post purchase experience to then get them to repeat and get more sessions. You don't necessarily need to then advertise to them again through Google Ads. So this is where you look at the lifetime value of that customer. How many times do you expect and how much do you expect to get from that customer? That is what actually determine how much you're willing to pay per click. So if for example the click is $30 and you're like, oh, I cannot pay more than $10, but in actual fact the customer lifetime value covers multiple of that $30 initial bid, then you can look at it from that perspective. You also need to look at the cost in general, the cost of your rent, the cost of your staff, the cost of electricity, all the costs grouped together, plus the Google Ads cost as well. And then you then look like, okay, how much should it really cost to get one customer? That is how you determine your budget. Your budget would then be determined by how many customers do you need to get in a month for you to be profitable to cover all those costs. So that's the most important thing. Then another question is, how regularly should you be monitoring your Google Ads? This is a very, very intelligent question because in some instances, it's easy to hire someone full time to sit and manage your Google Ads. And if you add the cost of that person's salary to the cost of Google Ads and all the costs, then you realize that it's too expensive for you. What I would recommend is for you to work with a freelance consultant like myself that charge you a fraction of what you would pay a full-time person. In that way, you're saving costs because let's be honest, the most important part of Google Ads is the first few weeks or couple of months when you set up that campaign. Once you set up that campaign, then the ongoing management does not require as much time for you to have a full-time person in place. So your Google Ads maintenance and your Google Ads campaign checks should be one or two times per day at the beginning, and later down the line then it becomes maybe twice a month. So that's why you need to work with an external consultant. External consultants will probably charge you $1,000 at most, sometimes up to $2,500, depending on how much you're spending. If you're spending a huge amount on Google Ads, you can get away with that 1 grand, 2.5 grand, depending on again on your budget. But if it's a small budget, then you can get away with just paying like $700 for a Google Ads expert to manage your accounts. That way, you save money from having to pay a full-time person to sit on your payroll, because Google Ads does not need regular tweaking. The perception that you need a full-time person to manage your Google Ads come with the perception that you need to always make changes. Google Ads need time to learn about your website, to learn about conversion. So that is why you need an expert like myself to help you set up your Google Ads campaign, manage the Google Ads campaign, optimize the Google Ads campaign, and also optimize your landing page. So the difference between my consulting service and other consulting services, I would help you with your Google Ads. I would also help you with your landing page and conversion rate optimization, and embed search engine optimization as well with your website. So your website is not just getting traffic through Google Ads alone. Your website is also getting traffic through AI overviews, through AI tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity, Cloud, and other AI tool. My name is Femi Olajiga. If you need help optimizing your Google Ads, especially for medical services organization, reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me a direct email and I'll be happy to help you. Thank you.